Hi guys, here from Pax Europiana. Today is Saturday and I will talk about Serbia. This is a wonderful country, there's great people, but unfortunately they have too great ambitions in their territorial extensions for some time, and we have to discuss the Austrian-Serbian relations and all the attached issues which are complicated. They are very complicated for good, let's say, 1,000 years or longer. Yes, it goes a long time back. Not only the Austrian-Serbian relation, because in very much it's important to understand that Serbia was part of the Byzantine Empire. The division between East and West Rome was already very much in the Balkans here, and it was very much connected like a important regional town of the Byzantine Empire. When the Latin Venetians, in a way the Habsburgians or whatever you want to call it, at that time, not so much the Habsburgians, but the West has attacked Constantinople after a lot of religious infights in the failing empire already before that 1204 attack. But this raid is very much important for what I want to tell you today, because in 1204 and then the Fourth Crusade attacked Constantinople, and what did the people do? A lot of people fought, were killed, and then fled. And the relationship between the Orthodox world and the Catholic world was never the same anymore, because when there was the schism, this division already before, it was very difficult for 400 years already, even longer maybe. But and this is the real point of no return in a way for many centuries. And when you just looked, for example, the Serbian Orthodox Church was recognized in 1214. It's not a coincidence here that basically many of the people left to Belgrade or to the monasteries in between. So the whole rise of this medieval kingdom of Serbia and the Serbian Orthodox Church is very much the fleeing elite of the Byzantine Empire after 1204, going into more kind of secure inner Balkans and being really angry about being attacked from what they call the Latin Crusaders. And never forget, the whole crusade started by invitation of the Byzantine king it was their invitation to get all these Latin knights in 100 years before. That turned out into a big debacle for them, and the mess was gigantic. And then in the Serbian Orthodox Church they were furious about the betrayal and everything, and from then moment on this myth, and then what is important then, the second thing to understand is that in the later the occupation from the Turks, obviously the Serbian Orthodox Church had a big role to play in the management of state affairs of their religious communities, because from basically already in that years, but from the fall of Constantinople, the first fall, 1204, then obviously the defense system against the Turks was very weak already, and they started then to gradually come in, and within 100 years later the Turks were a huge power already in the Balkans, and basically 250 years later they took over Constantinople completely. But in the meantime that was already a huge power, and after the fall of Constantinople they managed to take over basically all the Balkans. And the big century of the Turks was after the fall of Constantinople towards 1607 basically. This 150 years they were big time until their sea power was gradually defeated at Lepanto, and then 1607 was one Habsburg victory, and then there was a stalemate period entering until basically the 100 years until they were more or less driven back out of Central Europe by the Peace of Karlowitz. And then it took another 200 years until Turkey was reduced in Europe to what it is today. And in all this period, in this important period, from let's say 1300 to, well, basically it's from 1204, 1212 to all to now, the Serb Orthodox Church has played a huge role in management of the Christian segment of the population of the Ottoman Empire, in the defense, in the jurisdiction, and of course this is a huge tradition. But the logic of what I think we have to face today is, of course, we have many smaller countries, not one Yugoslavia, and all the things have changed obviously. And what is important now is that we could not allow and should not encourage a Serb Orthodox Church with regional power and land ambitions. Okay, they have that, but it's not good for, it's not in the European interest. It's their interest, but we shouldn't encourage that. It is all has to be worked with apologies for, we can start with the 1204 if you want, and go through all the disasters of the last 800 plus years. A lot of apologies, but what we shouldn't allow is them to have some regional imperial ambitions in Montenegro, Bosnia and Kosovo, because that's the most important. They have now settled with Macedonia and they have recognized the autocephalous status of Macedonian Church, and the same must be done as well with Montenegro, and no to the basic treaty with them in that extent. It can be a later form of a smaller, but not as it now foreseen. And the same is in Bosnia and in Kosovo, because in Kosovo I've read also some of the drafts. They want to also have some kind of special rights in Kosovo. Yes, certainly not. And then also I'm sure in Bosnia they have similar ideas in the Republika Srpska. So ultimately what I call for, it needs every country, that's new countries now, like Montenegro, Kosovo and Bosnia, relatively new country, needs also separate Orthodox churches which are recognized by the Orthodox world community in Istanbul, by the Patriarch, and they should be the main landowners and the main churches in Kosovo, Bosnia and Montenegro. And the Serb Orthodox Church should be the Orthodox Church of Serbia and not any kind of semi-imperial kind of position with regional power. I don't think that's unjustified, and I think no EU country should support that. No EU activist should support such a position. It's not about religious freedom, but it's about some kind of imperial imposition of the past on a present which has completely changed. And therefore I call a clear no to the basic treaty. I call for many apologies for past crimes. We have to work it all up, and we have to overcome all this tragic past, from 1204 to World War II, World War I, the Balkan Wars, and whatever occupation of Belgrade and massacres there might be in the memory. This must all be worked out, all, everything. But it cannot be worked out by giving the Serb Orthodox Church such a role in Montenegro, in Kosovo or in Bosnia. That's not possible. And that's not what the EU should or can support. And yes to religious freedom, but no to religious imperialism. So far, that's very clear. And so a lot of respect, but no to a special status of the Serb Orthodox Church in Montenegro, Kosovo or in Bosnia. Thanks a lot from Vienna, and more to come from Pax Europiana here from Vienna on this day, which I will focus for Serbia, for European Serbia. Thanks a lot, all the best, bye.